Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is a bit of a recap of the Level Up Retreat. It just took place July 14th to 16th in Connecticut, associated with Level Up events. Effectively, Level Up Retreat was a playing games convention that we ran the first event, the inaugural event this past July. We hope to be doing many more of these in the future. We're going to see exactly how things play out. I will encourage you strongly, if you want first access to news, discounts, and other kinds of things happen as we continue to do this, I'll have a link to the site down below. Sign up for the email list so you can stay informed and stay updated as things continue, because there will be things continuing. There's very much a strong intention to continue to do this. We'll see how things play out, but I'm very happy with how the first year went, and I was very nervous going into it. I've gone to a lot of board game conventions, but I've never effectively been part of running one, and that has a certain degree of pressure and responsibility. Obviously, I'm sitting here on camera, and I'm telling you, hey, Level Up Retreat, come on by, have fun, have a good time. And what if you don't? What if you don't have a good time? That's terrifying, by the way. Just so you know, that's terrifying to in any way be a part of convincing you to partake in an event where things don't go well. That's terrifying. And by the way, if you were an attendee of the event, we are sending out a request for feedback to tell us, the things you like, the things you don't like, what we can make better, what we can add to the event. We want your feedback to know, not just for like a pat on the back of, hey, I had a great time. That is good feedback, but more importantly, so we can do more, so we can do better. If something wasn't clear to you, if the schedules weren't clear, if the events weren't clear, if you want to see additional things added, we have many plans for what will happen for future events at Level Up. But additionally, your feedback is incredibly helpful because it helps us do better. It helps us improve the event so that every subsequent year is better than the last. But with that, this is going to be a bit of a recap of how the event went from my perspective, the timing, from setup all the way to teardown, the people I played games with, the games I played, the games I missed out and did not get to play. I'm looking at you, Bardwood Grove. I was very much hoping to play that one, but I'm going to be going through all of that. I'll be throwing in overlaid footage where I can. I did vlog a bit, but not nearly enough for a cohesive vlog event, so instead you get this, which I get to just talk about the games and the events and the things and throw pictures and video on wherever I can. But to that end, the event started off, first of all, I'm not going to go into the backlog of what actually led up to the event. This has been in the works since February, March, something like that, and that's been a very short time frame to plan an event for someone who's never really planned an event before. Now, make no mistake, I'm working together with Level Up Events. We're working together on this, and they have people who have done events but not in the board game space. So there's a mixture of knowledge going around that has all culminated in Level Up Retreat. To that end, though, there's a lot of stress around the things we weren't doing, whether the event isn't going to be good enough, isn't going to do enough, and that was with great intent. There's so many things that can go into a convention. You could have RPGs, you could have prototypes, you could have, we had prototypes set up, but you could have like prototype events where you playtest prototypes. You could have family days, you could have any number of different things that we didn't choose to have at Level Up Retreat because we wanted to keep things focused. We wanted to make sure that we did what we knew well, and then that way we can continue to grow off a strong base rather than trying to do too much and having things fall flat. And so to that end, this was mostly focused around playing games, having a hot games room, having a library, having a prototype game set up so you can play things that are coming out soon that you may have backed or whatnot. We had all of that ready to go. We had play to wins. We gave away something like 60 games, including an all-in copy of Oathsworn, so somebody walked home with that, or more specifically drove home. I'm happy the person who won it was not someone who flew, because that would have been its own nightmare to deal with. But we had a lot of things going on in that sense. We had a few events. We had a magic show, we had a comedy show, we had a few learn to plays going on, a crokinole tournament, so we had a few things, but didn't try to go too broad. But all the stuff that leads up to the event, I'm going to leave that out of this. I'm going to start with Thursday night. The event was a Friday to Sunday event, and Thursday night was the first moment of panic that I had. You see, Thursday night is the moment you show up, and all these things need to be done. Shelves need to be assembled, games need to be put onto shelves, games need to be set up on tables. There's so much that needs to be done for your first day, and there wasn't nearly enough time. Nearly everyone ran into massive traffic getting to the event. I know dozens of people who were planning on showing up, 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon. I was planning on showing up at 4 in the afternoon. I didn't get there till 6:30. I was 2.5 hours late just due to traffic and backlog, and so many others were as well, which meant setup to begin with. Just even the pallets getting there, pallets of games. You have to ship in pallets of games, pallets of shelving, everything you need to have to get things up and running. All that stuff was just delayed. The problem is we also had a dinner for very special guests and people involved in the event was that night. So we effectively had an hour once things finally showed up. We had an hour to actually set things up, and that was not nearly enough time. That's where the panic started. Fortunately, we had volunteers, which I am incredibly grateful, both official volunteers who signed up for volunteer badges to be part of helping out, as well as just people who we knew who were like, hey, we're here, we're happy to lend a hand, and I'm grateful for all of you because it made a very difficult, very stressful first night of the event, less difficult and less stressful. Still difficult and stressful, but definitely less so thanks to their help. But we had people working together to, like, unbox boxes of shelves, to put together shelves, to set up the grids, to unbox the games, to sort them, to put them on the shelves. And again, there were things that I wanted to get done that we just didn't because of the delayed start. And it's things that we'll take into account for next year. One thing that definitely did not happen this event was the library wasn't sorted by genre. I had gone through the work beforehand of making sure every game was tagged with a general genre, which is its own fascinating idea of how you actually categorize things. If you have Wingspan, is Wingspan a family game? Is it a strategy game? Which shelf does it go on? If you have something like, I don't know, what's a good example? What's a two-player cooperative game? I can't think of a specific one, but there's so many games that fall into different genres. There's games that, because we tried to limit the genres to not be too over the top. So we had cooperative, we had strategy, we had family, we had party, we had two-player, we had maybe 6 or 7 categories just to not go too broad. The problem is sometimes things fit into multiple categories. You have to decide where that thing goes. Is a game like On Tour a party game or a family game? What is On Tour? Where does it fall into the vein of this conversation? There's so many different games that have just different ways and wheres they can be placed, which is just a fun thing. The way Board Game Geek operates is a game like Wingspan is both in the strategy category and in the family category. That works when you're talking about a digital database. It doesn't work when you have to put it on one of 2 shelves. And so we went through I made judgment calls. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the goal would be that you can walk over to your shelf and understand that you're pulling off an Ameritrash experience. But also, that's another question. Is Zombicide cooperative or is it Ameritrash? Which category does it fall into? This is just the stuff you never have to think about in life, but I have to think about. Many others have to think about as well. Just one of those fun things that you don't necessarily know is going to be a problem to deal with until you're dealing with it. Either way, all the games were categorized, and not a single one of the games was put onto a categorized shelf. What we were able to do is we were able to get all the play-to-wins and put them on their own shelves so people can easily pull those off. So at a glance, you can pull off the games that you have a chance of winning. That we made sure to do. But the rest of the games we didn't categorize just for a lack of time, which is something that will hopefully be taken care of next year. Next year, we'll be coming in even earlier to account for 2.5 hours of bad traffic and all those things. But past that, Thursday night started with just a chaos and setup, and again, I'm grateful to everyone who was there to help out. From there, we went into a special dinner for the guests and the people running it out. The person I'm working with at Level Up, they put together a special dinner for the special guests to basically say, hey, thanks for coming, thanks for being a part of the event, for promoting the event, for talking about it, for giving people another reason to just be aware of the event. I don't think events in general, by any means, need special guests to run. I mean, you can look at the most successful convention in the space, and usually they don't run based on special guests, not at all. But for a starting off event, this is something actually we learned from WSBG, World Series of Board Gaming, that they did this, and it was like, oh, that's a good idea, it's a good point. But if you loop in a bunch of content creators, a bunch of people in the space, then it's a good way of getting your thing off the ground initially. It's good for that initial surge. Will we have special guests in the future? I'm sure we will, but overall, as time goes on, there'll be less of a focus on trying to get as many content creators and whatnot involved, and more of a focus of just making sure that the event that you are coming to continues to be good. To be very clear, I'm sure we'll have people in the future. It's just, the way you balance and how you handle all of that. But anyways, we had an event for the special. We had a special dinner we had a dinner Thursday night for the special guests. Very well put together dinner that, was like a 4-course meal with, board game themed things. There was menus for there were cocktail menus based around Quacks of Quedlinburg's beers and wines from Castle of Burgundy. The whole thing was beautifully put together. I had nothing to do with any of that. I was doing a lot of things in terms of making sure the event was well run, but I had nothing to do with the special dinner prep. So all of this was a huge surprise to me to see menus, like dice thrown menus for the actual 4-course dinner, and then again, drink menus from various board games, to have desserts that were themed around board games. The entire dessert menu was a bunch of Azul cookies, cakes that had printing of various popular games on them. We had a Splendor muffins or cupcakes or whatever. So many of these things were there, and this is something that we're looking into our options. Oh, interesting. I'm remembering now that I need to add this to our poll that we're putting out, but there were many options that, the one of the things we're looking into is the option of potentially expanding this to VIP guests in future years or future events. For the event, we had regular guests, but we also had VIP badges you can purchase. VIP badges gave you access to a snack room, which I'm going to try to find footage or photos of it because I really want to. I don't know if I got them in the full glory of when the snack room was there, but we had a snack room, which I was kind of like, hey, it's a nice thing, but the snack room itself was actually incredibly convenient. It was like a place that anyone can go grab a seltzer, grab a drink, grab dozens of snacks at any point, and I was more skeptical of how much value the snack room would add, and I would say I was very, very happy with the end result of just having a place that people could go ahead and grab things. And so you paid extra for a VIP access badge to that. There were other things that came along with it. There was a swag box, various merch that was in the swag box, extra coupons for pins and whatnot. There was a few special things you can get, like a copy of 20 Strong, which unfortunately, the 20 Strong was delayed as far as shipping went, so people got coupons to get it with free shipping once Chip Theory Games has it up. If you are someone who got one of those, they should be going up on the site shortly, as soon as they're available, but that coupon is good once it shows up. There are other options you can choose instead, such as Dice Towers or Moonraker Shards kits. There are different things you can do, mugs, there are different extras you can choose. So you got a swag box, access to the snack room, an extra thing, and we're looking into the possibility of doing a dinner that either is part of a VIP badge or separate, just an access fee or whatnot, some sort of fee to cover the cost of it, doing some sort of dinner for anyone who wants to come, not just special guests, trying to make an inaugural dinner for every event. So it's one of those things that's tricky to balance, because it's a very fun idea if you have like 50 people in a large dinner, maybe even 100 people in a large dinner. It gets pretty crazy if you're talking about, having 500 people in a large dinner. So it's one of those things you have to delicately balance how we handle it. But it's something we're looking into because we thought it was fun, and I think it'd be more fun to have a starting off dinner to any event, which could be fun, could be cool. We're talking about that. But overall, that was great to begin with, because that was where I got to hang out with a lot of people who are either my friends already or people who I kind of know but haven't met in person yet in the content creator space. We had a lot of special guests at the event. We had Jenna from the Board Game Garden, Adam from Shelf Clutter. We had Ant Lab Games there. We had Grant Lyon from Grant's Game Rex. We had Danielle Standing. We had Devin Talks Tabletop. We had Professor Meg. We had Brian from Game Brigade. We had Jeff from the Dragon's Tomb. We had Michael Kelly from One Stop Co-op Shop. Tim Riel from Nerd and Correct. We had, whom else am I forgetting? We had Paradise Games. We had Thinker Themer, although they weren't at the dinner, they were coming in the next day. We had Board Game Buzz, Carly from Board Game Buzz. Fantastic channels, check her out. But there's a lot of content creators who were there, some who made it to the dinner, some who did not. But overall, this is my first opportunity to sit down and talk with a lot of my friends, spend time with a lot of my friends, which again, for me, I was spending the whole day stressed about trying to set up and get things up and ready for the next day. Either way, dinner finished, had a good time overall, and then from there, I'm trying to remember the timing of it all. I think if I recall correctly, from there I went straight from the dinner down to continue to set up, because again, I had that sense of responsibility around making sure things were taken care of. Fortunately, there were 2 or 3 people who were still, maybe a little more than that, maybe 4 or 5 volunteers were still there. Some of the volunteers had left, some of the volunteers were still there. I continued to set up, to continue to organize that's I think when I organized the Play to Win shelf. That's when I started setting up games on the Hot Games rooms, on the Hot Games tables. Not really setting up games so much as putting the games out. Again, there wasn't even time. I wanted every hot game to be set up, but at least I started by putting them on the table so we can start the process the next morning, whatnot, getting all that taken care of. And I was there till around 2 in the morning, at which point I thought I was going to go to sleep, but instead, on my way to sleep, I found everyone in the lobby, just having fun and having a good time and playing Crokinole. Jeremy Tracy from Crokinole Boards had showed up. There were Crokinole boards set up in the lobby, and people were just talking and shooting discs back and forth. And so I sat down for another half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, to spend time with my friends and just to overall have a good time and to play Crokinole. Got my first game of Crokinole in that night, so my first of 22 different games that I played over the course of the convention. I played a good mix of new and old games, but my first of 22 games was Crokinole. Thursday night, just sitting down, talking with my friends, a little bit stressed, a little bit excited, and looking forward to the next few days. That was Thursday. Friday morning, I woke up bright and early. Fun fact, by the way, when you go to a convention, when generally I go to a convention, I have no problem staying up to 3 in the morning. If I need to get up at 8 or 9 the next day, that's totally fine. That's true to a point. It's less true when you're trying to get up at 7 in the morning, because you're hosting the convention, and ideally you should be there as early as possible. So from 2:30 till around 4:30, to 2:30 to around 6:30 was my sleep that night. 4 hours of sleep. It's not bad. I've done worse. It's not the best. I don't recommend it for the whole convention, but I wanted to at least be there 7 in the morning the very first day, and so I was. I showed up as early as possible, maybe 7:15. I was bright and early. The room was not yet full. The hall opens at 7. The gaming hall opened at 7. And that's when I got to the room, started setting up games. I was one of the first people there, while others were, got to run into Kevin, a big fan of the channel, big supporter of the channel. I'm very grateful for Kevin. But I got to run into him a bit, talk. I actually saw him the day before, but I got to sit down and talk with him a bit. I think I played my first game. Did I not log that play? I didn't log that play. Maybe, did I? I don't see it. I may have played 23 games, I don't know. My very first play of the convention was early Sunday morning, early Friday morning, where I got to play Mythic Mischief, sitting down with Kevin. That's a game where I should give a bit more guidance on. We tried walking through, but it was definitely, I've played that game a lot, and I do know the systems. I'm actually very excited. They're going to be coming out with the expansions shortly. That's going to be launching soon, so very excited for that. But Mythic Mischief was my very first game Friday morning. And from there, as I was setting up other games, I started to get other games setting up, and then I saw a few people playing Stone Spine Architects. That's a current game from Thunderworks Games, currently on crowdfunding. And Stone Spine Architects, they were sitting down to play, and I was like, hey, do you know the game? This is one of our prototype games. We had around 10 or so prototypes set up. We had Beast, we had Stone Spine Architects, Let's Go to Japan, we had Stalker. We had like 10 or so fairly popular prototypes. I specifically chose things that I think have a degree of popularity to them, and put them out to sit down to get them played, to get them tabled, and see what people enjoyed or didn't enjoy about them. And so with Stone Spine Architects, they were setting up to, I'd finished my game of Mythic Mischief. I just set up another game or two. I don't even remember which ones it were. They had a few volunteers in the morning still continuing to set up the hot games as people slowly filtered into the hall. And so they were setting up, and the people playing Stone Spine Architects were actually 4 members of our Camp Co-op Discord community. They had sat down, they were ready to play, and I was like, have you started the rules yet? And they were like, no. I was like, I can teach you. I've played this game. And so I proceeded to sit down and teach them the game and play a 5-player game. I actually sat down and played with them. It's a fast-moving game in general. It's simultaneous play, and so I was able to join them as well, not just teach. I did a lot of teaching, a lot of playing. My time across the convention was heavily divided between teaching games, playing games, and then background running of stuff. And so to that end, sat down and taught them and played Stone Spine Architects with them. That was great to get off the ground. And then from there, for I would say almost the rest of the day, I didn't really play much. I played some more things towards the end of the day. No, wait, that's not true. Maybe Rolling Heights. I'm trying to remember the exact sequence. I don't remember the exact sequence. I know I taught a group Planet Unknown. I taught a group Rolling Heights. And then I came back and played Rolling Heights with a different group after. So I was able to both teach and play Rolling Heights separately. So I guess I taught it twice in theory. But I played Rolling Heights with a few people. At first I was just going to teach them. And then I was like, then we ended up, I had a window. So I played Rolling Heights with them. But then from there I was just dancing around from table to table, helping teach games, probably for the next several hours. Occasionally dancing out to handle whatever's going on in the background, checking on the snack room. I think only midway through the first day did I even see the snack room. And I was very impressed with the whole setup of just what they had. It's one of those things, I mean, I don't know about you, I hear snack room and I'm like, whatever, that sounds like a nice thing. It was nice. It was nice to have a room that just had regular goodies and access and drinks available. It was something that, not to sound too salesy, but in the future, if we do a snack room and you see a VIP badge for the snack room, I do think it's worth considering. I do think it's the kind of thing you'll get your money's worth, especially when you combine it with all the other things that are going on. But either way, that was that. And then I think towards the end of the day, I think I got to play a game of Blob Party. Blob Party was more midday, end day, or midday. I think I played On Tour. I played On Tour. Got to play that with Michael Kelly. Michael Kelly I've been chatting with throughout the morning, One Stop Co-op Shop, and I got to sit down and play. Did I play On Tour with him? I'm trying to remember who I played games with. I don't have a full log of who I played games with. I played Trailblazers with Michael Kelly. That was the next day. So I might be missing my time zone. I played On Tour. At some point that day. I got a chance to sit down and just, roll some dice. For this from All Play. One of my favorite All Play games. Ghost of Christmas is probably my favorite. On Tour is probably my second favorite. But On Tour is just reliably a good time. It's a roll right game. So I enjoyed that. Did I play that with Game Brigade? No. I don't remember who I played that with. I don't remember who I played On Tour with. I don't know. I played On Tour with somebody. Some people. A group of people. It was like 4. I think it was a group of 4, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, I played On Tour. I got to go through that. I then played Blob Party. Blob Party was a game that I had... This is my first new-to-me game of the convention, and I really enjoyed Blob Party. Like, a lot. I thought Blob Party was absolutely fantastic. I was totally not expecting it in any way, shape, or form. It's this game where you basically are in a... I talked about it in my weekend review this, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is. But you basically have to answer questions, and then as a result, you get assigned to groups, and you have 7 questions to become a giant blob. So you start off as all these individual entities, and you get a question, and the question might be popular board game. Okay, and the question, they're usually groups of things. So you have board game and popular. So you could have gotten popular board game. You could have also gotten, spiteful board game. I don't know, whatever it is. But that's how you get popular board game. And so you have that over there. And then obviously I'm going to sit there and say Gloomhaven. But other people are going to say Brass Birmingham. And they're going to get a variety of answers. And then all these similar answers, because at least 2 people in your blob are saying Gloomhaven, they're going to become a central blob. And then they answer the next question as a group. And so as you continue to centralize into this blob of groupthink, it is phenomenal. I think it's such a creative party game, and I have to pick it up as soon as I can. I'm filming this right before Gen Con. I hope to pick up Blob Party at Gen Con. I want to get my hands on that one. But either way, Blob Party is a fantastic game. My first new to me game of the convention. That was effectively Friday. Friday was very busy, very chaotic, a lot of teaching, a lot of continuing to set things up because, again, I wanted to make sure, even as games were being played and games were being pulled out of the library and all that, and we currently, for the first year, we had an open play library. You didn't have to log, you didn't have to register. We kind of said we have a small enough grouping of people. We had 250, 300 people, and we had a small enough grouping of people that we didn't worry too much about loss and whatnot. We figured we were right down to the cost of doing business, and we just said, hey, we're going to give people open access to the library as opposed to running a tagged, stickered library. We do plan on running a tagged library in the future. We have to check things out. Some of that's just good for our own numbers to know what games are being played and what games aren't being played. And obviously, as the convention grows, that risk aspect of games being pulled out wherever gets harder. And the downside of an open library is you can't take a game to your room because you can't leave the hall with the game. Versus, if you have a library with checking it out, and we have your license on file, your badge on file, whatever it is, there's a little bit more flexibility. I don't care if you take a game to your room. I say that now. The convention policy in the future might change. I don't know. I'm just speaking off the cuff over here. But either way, that was Friday. Crazy first day. And very... What's the word for it? I don't know the right word for it. But very reassuring is the right word? I don't know. It was I walked away Friday being confident that a large portion of the people there were having a good time. That to me was the most important thing. One of the things I talked about with the people I'm working with at Level Up before we did this is I said the most important thing to me is not making money. Making money is a conversation we can talk about down the road. If we break even the first year, great. I don't think we did. It's one of those things that the amount of startup cost to this is just large. But making money was not my goal. My goal is that people should have a good time. You can build a lot of things off people having a good time. And it's not just about the future build is the aspect. It's also the aspect that effectively going to convention costs a lot of money. The badge itself is not that expensive. It's like, I think it's $100 for a 3-day weekend. It's not crazy. It's not the end of the world at all. But then additionally, you have the cost of travel, the cost of hotels, all these peripheral costs that even though we're not getting that money, that's money you're spending. And that's money you're spending off of me saying, hey, we're running an event and a retreat and come play board games with us. And if you don't have a good time, I feel guilty over that. I feel guilty over... No differently than when I review a board game. Whether it's fair or not, if I review a game, if I tell you Race to the Rafters is a great game and you buy it and you don't like it, I feel guilty, that sense of responsibility. I still have to tell you my opinion, but I have a sense of responsibility about anytime encouraging someone to spend money in any way and then having it not go the way they want. And so that's a mindfulness that I generally have. And Friday, I was very reassured that I can't speak for every individual, but the general atmosphere was solid. The general atmosphere was a lot of people having a good time, and I was much calmer. Then came Saturday. This is not like a plot twist where Saturday had a horrific incident happen. I mean, Saturday did have, I think the whole weekend we had terrible weather. We had flash floods. I think we had a tornado warning at one point. So we had terrible weather the whole weekend. I don't know but most people. But for me, I think the only negative impact I had is Sunday morning. The hotel we were in, the degree of humidity in the hotel Sunday morning was intense. And I don't blame the hotel. The weather was crazy, but it was definitely like I remember walking through Sunday morning and just the feeling like I was getting hit with humidity, which that part I didn't love. But past that, the weather itself didn't have a huge effect. But either way, Saturday morning, I don't know exactly when people showed up here, but the bunch of people who I hadn't seen the day before showed up. I think Thinker-Themer. I don't recall seeing Thinker-Themer Friday, but I may just be forgetting. I don't know. Henry Audubon, designer of parks, was coming, a special guest at the event. He showed up on, I think, Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Board Game Buzz, Carly from Board Game Buzz. I might be misremembering when and where, but I only remember seeing her Saturday. So a bunch of people who I hadn't yet talked to, I got to interact with on Saturday. But Saturday had a bunch of things. So first off, Friday, before we end that, end of day Friday, we had a comedy show from Grant. From Grant Lyon, did a comedy show, which is a very full room. This is another one of those things that you're trying to be mindful of when you have a convention is, I want to run events, but I want to make sure there's enough people in the events that the person running the event doesn't feel silly. Speaking for myself, if I was giving a panel and there were 3 people at the panel, I would do it, but I'd feel a bit like, oh, there's 3 people, which not so you shouldn't do it, just that I have a sense of responsibility to the people presenting that I want them to have enough of a crowd that they feel people showed up to see them. And I was very happy. Grant had 50, 60 people in the room, which again, from a convention of, 250, 300 people, it's a decent chunk of people who showed up for the comedy show. And I think the ones who didn't show up, I think you missed out because Grant is amazing. Grant is incredible. The idea of having board game comedy, it's not something you usually get to see because you have comedy and you have board games. Board game comedy is such a focused genre that it's a real treat to be able to see Grant making jokes about board games. He did a phenomenal job. His delivery, his jokes, everything is top notch. I've had a chance of seeing his set once before, and he iterates, he adjusts, he puts things in, he takes things out. But it's just an absolute pleasure to be a part of that, and I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend showing up. I don't know if plans for the future, but if Grant is doing a show in the future, I recommend showing up for it. It was very well done. From there we had Saturday. Saturday we had a bunch of things. So Saturday I got to play a lot more games Saturday. Saturday was like, I think Friday I was mostly focused on teaching games. Saturday I was definitely teaching games a lot as well, but definitely played a lot more too. I got to teach, and I guess, so a lot of my teaching was teaching and playing. So there were, for instance, there were a lot of non-gamers there as well. People who really weren't in the board game space and were like just peripherally aware of it. I know there's one family there who all they had played really was Catan. They're asking for recommendations. And so I taught this family, I taught them Pandemic, I taught them Timeline, to get them up and running and play those games with them to help get that flowing, to be there. We had actually some members from our camp co-op community. Actually, it was great. It was watching like people we know in our communities helping other people who aren't gamers play games. Watching, I remember they taught them Cascadia, which is, I recommended Cascadia, but then they wanted me to teach it, but I was busy doing something else, and so we had someone from our community step in and teach them Cascadia, which was lovely. I'm very grateful for that. But overall, I got to play some of those games. I got to teach another group of, I saw some teenagers who were really just trying to experiment. There were two teenagers who had pulled like a hidden roll game off the shelf to play, and they clearly didn't really know what they were looking for, and I was like, hey, that game kind of requires like 5 people. What can we do over here? And so I taught them Coloretto. They had a great time. They really enjoyed it. There was one of those things. Coloretto is a fascinating game of trying to gather sets of cards, and there's a lot of thought behind. Not thought. There's a lot of precision as far as how you do this kind of I cut you choose sort of mechanic to Coloretto, and the more they played it, the more you could see that their level of appreciation for the game kept escalating as they got further into the game. And it's one of those nice things where I didn't win, which is good. Ideally speaking, teaching a game and winning is not always the best thing, but I also don't like heavily pull punches, so sometimes it happens. But they managed to pull out a win there, which is very satisfying. They had a great time. You can see the look of appreciation on their faces of like as they got the strategy of the game. I got to pull out Deus with again another game I played with the members of our Discord community, but Deus is a game that I haven't played in a long time, and I kind of want it back now. I want Deus back. It's one of those games that I remember really loving it, and I had it for a long time, and I want it back. I want Deus back. That's what I'm saying. So I'm probably going to get Deus back. I actually already played a game on Board Game Arena since coming home to try to remind myself, and I like it. It's not the best game, but kind of like Five Tribes to me. It's just a satisfying experience that I really enjoy. It's all about this tableau of cards that you're playing out when you play through Deus. You're placing a card, and then as you activate a card, you activate all the cards below it. And you can have a maximum of 5 of each type, and that means you can build up these cascading bonuses, but you also need to go diverse because that's how you build temples, which are a big source of points in the game. So you can focus on big, cool combos, which is what I do, or you can focus on winning, and that's a different strategy entirely. Kind of like if you play Dominion, going for the combos versus going for gold. And so lots of fun things to do over there, but this is a really satisfying experience that I want to play again. I had a chance to teach Trailblazers. This one was to a member of our community, to a one-stop co-op shop as well. I think there might have been a 4th person. I feel like there's a 4th person, but I don't remember I don't know for sure. Either way, Trailblazers from Bitewing Games. That's one that I've really been enjoying recently. I had a chance to teach that one to people, so to get them up and running on that one. It's a solid game. We got it over here. I grabbed some of the general games I played over here. We had Timeline I mentioned already. We have Inside Job. This is a new to me game. I'd actually read the rules to it. This is from Cosmos Games. It's a trick-taking combined with hidden trader mechanism. So if you like trick-taking games, if you like hidden traders, it's similar to Shamans. If you played Shamans from Hachette Games, similar kind of concept, but I think Inside Job does it a bit better. But both them, Inside Job, I'll have a review coverage of it. I think ultimately, for me, I still would rather play a good trick-taking game or a good hidden roll game. I do like Inside Job. I think it's very satisfying, but I'd rather just play one of those others as opposed to, well, both of them combined. We had Monikers, which is one of the games I definitely want to play at a convention. Got a nice, 8 or so player game of Monikers in, dealing out the cards and just having your inside jokes develop as you play. My favorite thing about Monikers, it effectively starts off as It's not for charades. It starts off as just you have a bunch of cards that are in this common pool, and you have your team members, and you're just shouting things off, trying to get your team to guess the cards. And whatever the card is, let's say you have the card, and let's say the card is seltzer. So you might literally say, okay, this is a bubbling water. It's unflavored, it's bubbling water, and it's something that people carbonated, people whatever. And someone yells seltzer. The problem is after you go through all these cards and they're in the rotation, you shuffle them up again. You add up the points you got in the first round, where you could say anything you want except for the word itself, trying to get your teammates to guess that word. In the second round, you do the exact same thing with the same cards, which means now you suddenly just go with one word clues. You can only say a single word. So now the word pops up, seltzer, and I say carbonation. And there's never a reason for you to have got carbonation, except for the fact that seltzer was in the first round. So now, if you remember, you say seltzer. But it results in these incredible inside jokes that develop as you play. And the third round is the same thing, but now it's with like just charades. Just charades is all you do. So you go, and you go, like bubbly, I don't know, you do your charades for seltzer, and hopefully someone remembers that seltzer's in there, and they're like, oh, bubbles and drinking seltzer, and you can do that, and so it results in this incredible degree of humor in the game. I think Monikers is one of my must-play convention games in general, or just good party games, so got to play a game of Monikers, which I was very much looking forward to. We have Decrypto, another game. I got to play this actually with Thinker Themer, with Professor Meg, with Jenna, and like one or two other people, but Decrypto is a game that I really love Decrypto. I think Decrypto is fantastic. I don't think necessarily the convention this time was the best atmosphere to play it. It was very noisy around us, and it was harder to hear things, so it felt a little bit more like a disparate experience as opposed to experiencing it together. But I do very much enjoy Decrypto. I think it's fantastic. I believe Decrypto is the highest ranked party game on Board Game Geek. And it's very similar to Codenames. It's almost like a mix between Codenames and Reverse Just One. See, in Decrypto, what you're doing is you have these cards, and your teammate sees the clues you have, the words you have. So, for example, let's say the 4 words are table, game, glass, chocolate. Table, game, glass, chocolate. Okay, that's you see those words, and then from there, though, I have to get you to guess a number. So the number might be 143, and if it's 143, that means it's table, chocolate, game. Okay, table, chocolate, game. I don't know if that's the order, but specifically those numbers. You have to get them to guess them in order. And so I will say things to get you to guess it. So I might say, if it's table, chocolate, game, if that's the order I'm trying to get it in, I'll say furniture, food, play. Okay, and then you'll figure that out. My team will figure that out and say, oh, 143, that's the order you're trying to give. The problem is the other team records these clues. And over time, they can build up a kind of direction of what your clue is through reverse just oneing it. It's almost like if just one is like you give all these clues and then you find the common denominator. Decrypto is the same idea, but you don't want that to happen. So you want your clues as disconnected as possible. So maybe next round, I have the same furniture clue. And so next time I said, it's tables, furniture, and next time I say chair. The problem is if I said chair and furniture, that's great, but now you on the other team see that chair and furniture are related to clue number 1. And so if in the future, if I say dinner, maybe you'll get that there's a common denominator there. Maybe not. Or maybe I have to be more clever. So that's where maybe I write down gaming. Because gaming might throw you off, but my team, knowing that it's table specifically, can see those commonalities. So it's all about trying to come up with these clever ways of giving a clue to your team while not giving common denominators to the other team. I think it is brilliant as far as the game goes, but I think it did run a little long, and it's in a convention setting where we could barely hear each other, so it kind of felt like going back and forth, taking turns, communicating. I still had a blast playing it, but that was Decrypto. Then we had Race to the Raft. Race to the Raft, Thinker Theme actually taught. We had a group of people. So Race to the Raft was like it was one of the things that Professor Meg had a copy and Thinker Themer had played it and covered it during the Kickstarter phase. And so I was like, my goal is to play Race to the Raft because I wanted to. I had my own copy coming in. I believe this arrived while I was gone, and my goal was to have Thinker Themer teach me Race to the Raft. And so that was a great goal. The problem is that goal started with it being, I think, myself, Professor Meg, and Thinker Themer. Their names are Amy and Maggie. I just say Thinker and Themer a lot. So me, Meg, Amy, and Maggie. And then it kind of just expanded outwards. What started as a group of 4 people kind of somehow magically became a group of 10 people. And we had 10 people who wanted to play a 4-player game. And they're all like, oh, we'll just learn it. And like, that was great, except there's a lot of pressure around this. So I think actually, if I recall correctly, I remember hearing very similarly, I think Carly from Board Game Buzz, Amy and Maggie, and I believe one other person had a similar experience with Merchant's Cove, where it just expanded to this group of like 10 people somehow, I don't know, including the designer, because Carl Van Ostrand was there, and that's where Bardwood Grove, I wanted to play Bardwood Grove, I missed it either way. So yeah, either way, we had like 10 people. Fortunately, we had, oh my gosh, I'm gonna blank on his name. Oh my gosh. From Eric Summer. Eric Summer from, I always mix up Eric Summer and Eric Martin. Eric Summer's from the Dice Tower, Eric Martin's from Board Game Geek. So Eric Summer was actually there from the Dice Tower, and we had this whole table of 10 people, and he's like, are you trying to play with 10 players? I was like, no, we just have a bunch of people who are trying to learn the game together. He's like, would you like another copy? And I was like, that would be amazing. And so he reached into his bag, handed us another copy of Race to the Raft. So we were able to set up 2 tables and have 2 4-player games plus additional eyeballs playing the game as Thinker Themer, as Amy taught us the game. So that was, Amy and Maggie taught us the game. So that was great. I got to play that. This is a new to me game at the convention. Really enjoyed it. I actually have review coverage going up soon because I've played it like 7 more times since the convention. So I have review coverage on this one going up shortly. Or already, depending on when you watch this video. Then we had Nana. Speaking of Thinker Themer, speaking of Amy and Maggie, they taught us a game called Nana. A game that's coming out with a Spanish version called Trio, I believe. This is originally in Japan. I don't know. You can play it on Board Game Arena, although I don't know how that works. It's a memory game. There's a memory element to it, so I would only want to play that in person, I think, practically speaking. But either way, Nana is a game in which you have a hand of cards and you're trying to get sets of 3, but you can only ask people their lowest or highest card. So I can turn to you and say, what's your highest card? You put it down on the table, and it's a 12. Then I can turn to somebody else and say, what's your highest card? If it's a 12, I can keep going, because I got the go fish, so to speak. But if it's not a 12, if it's an 11, then now somebody else has a turn, but they have the knowledge, if they can remember, of who has what. And you're playing with highest, lowest, and some cards in the middle, and your goal is to get to success of 3. I won't heavily go into it more, but I will say it's a really fun time. It's one of those things, like, I don't think I'd want to play Go Fish, and I don't think I'd want to play most memory games. I really like Leo the Lion. I highly recommend that. But the combination of them kind of worked well to give you this charming game. We got to play it a few times. I really enjoyed it, and I'm eager to play that one more. But that was Nana, which I'm gonna have to hunt down a copy now. But that was that, which means the next thing I have was there's a game, I don't remember the name of the game, but there's a small game I got to play a round or two of that was kind of this made up question game. Grant Lyon taught this one, and it was you make up a question effectively through a use of a combination of cards that all go together. So you might have, what has 4 legs and is scary. Okay, this has a combination. Okay, so I think one of the questions we got is what opens but also closes. Okay, that was one of the questions. Something like that. It's something I can't remember. May have been another part of the question. Maybe it's 3 parts, not 2 parts. But it's made up questions, and then players submit answers to the person who votes. So it's the kind of apples to apples style of judging, where you kind of have a voter of who gave the best answers, and then you do that based on these questions that all combine. Very intriguing game. Not the kind of game I'm going to track down. It's not like the amazingness that Blob Party was to me. Certainly a fun time. Would always be happy to play it. Very innovative and interesting. Just though the concept of a central judge is so overdone that for me at this point I kind of mostly just play Dixit in that genre. There's so many games that do it, and I just for me Dixit is one of the ones that has done it the best overall. Because Dixit's not really even a central judge, which is part of what makes it interesting. Either way, but that was I don't remember the name of this owl game. Just remember that. Then there's Skull. I walked over to a table, and Devin was setting up a game of Skull to play with a bunch of players, and Devin's like, "Hey, Alex, can you teach us? I'll be right back." So I taught it. Then I played it. Then I played it again. And again, and continued to play Skull. Meanwhile, Devin was gone for 40 minutes while I taught and played Skull for 40 minutes to a table of players. Devin never showed up again. He just disappeared forever. That was it. I haven't seen Devin since, and I'm pretty sure he's still alive, but I don't know for certain. But that was Skull, Skull is fantastic, so I'm not complaining that much. And then lastly on Saturday, we had a Crokinole tournament. That was what kind of closed the day for me. I entered a Crokinole pairs tournament with Meg. We played. We lost horribly. I mean, we didn't lose to the end. I don't think we were the worst team there, but we certainly were not winning any prizes. There was a degree of chaos to playing through the game, and I love Crokinole. I think it's absolutely fantastic though, and I mean we just played 10 games of Crokinole in a row, which was delightful because I am always down for the excuse to play more Crokinole. And that kind of closes up Saturday. Which brings us to Sunday, the last day of the convention. At this point, Sunday's always a sad day because that's when a lot of people you're friends with have already left that day, and this last time you got to see them, and now you're entering Sunday. It's one of those pros and cons because you're pulled in less directions the last day because you can give more attention to the remaining people you want to spend time with, but a little less attention to people who you may have missed out on. So that happens on Sunday, and then there's that earlier. Not musk, but rather humidity. There's a humidity in Sunday morning. The hotel literally had leaking ceilings. This is not, to me at least, I didn't get the sense that this was I had no real complaints about the quality of the hotel. I thought the quality of the hotel was great, and overall seemed like a place I'd happily go again. But I will say, Sunday there were 4 areas that were leaking, and again, it was torrential downpours. There were people who flights were canceled left, right, and center. So take it with a grain of salt. The hotel definitely had leaks, but the level of rain was a lot, and there's a degree of humidity in the room Sunday morning, which was a lot. I almost felt like I should walk down with a hand towel to constantly wipe my face down. But that was to start Sunday. But Sunday itself was great. I got to play a game of Azul with actually a Patreon member from the Board Game Co audience. Patreon member. I got to play Azul with him. I played other games with him too. I'm trying to remember what. Maybe he played on tour. No, I know I played other games with him. Either way, that was Azul. Got to play that. I got to play Noobs in Space. Noobs in Space, a fantastic little game from Cosmos. That was it's all about teamwork and communication, and you're allowed to talk about what you have in your hand. You have these cards that are divvied up to the players, and you're allowed to talk about things, but you're not allowed to show cards. And you have these tasks you're trying to accomplish, and the difference between describing things versus seeing them is big. It's very cleverly done. Really enjoyed it. I should have review coverage of that one up soon. It's only 8 scenarios in the game. It's 15 minutes per scenario, so it's very easy to dive through it with the same group and just knock out plays. But really enjoyed Noobs in Space. Speaking of which, I also got to play My City Roll and Build from Cosmos as well. That's going to be My City, but with a roll and write. I prefer My City, there's no question at all, but My City Roll and Build, I'm definitely going to play the whole thing, because why not? It's an easy to play game that, yeah, I'm definitely going to play the whole thing. No reason not to at all. Then from there, that would be that. We also had Stranger Things. I got taught Stranger Things over here. I didn't get to finish it, unfortunately, but I really enjoyed what I got to see of this one, and so I actually brought it home with me, and I'm continuing to go through this one and dive. This is actually a review copy that sent to me, but Asmodee, that I brought to the to be one of the hot games because I thought people would want to play it. And Stranger Things, I got taught it, and it's one that I've since played it more, and I will have review coverage of it that you can see, but overall very much enjoy that one. It's a cooperative experience set in the world of Stranger Things, where I don't like the main mechanic of just kind of guessing stacks of numbers. That's what it is. You're kind of like committing to a stack of numbers, how many actions you want to go, and hoping it works in your favor. Didn't necessarily love that quite as much, but overall, the overall setting and mood and atmosphere of it, I think, is very well done. It's the kind of game I'm going to play through and then move on. There's like two seasons in the box, and they're hard to win. They're hard, challenging games to go through, and I'm looking forward to seasons 3 and 4. I actually just started watching Stranger Things with my daughter because she saw it, and she's like, oh, I should watch that. And I was like, let's watch the whole thing from the beginning. I never finished season 4. I don't even know if I watched season 4 at all. I think I never finished season 3. I finished seasons 1 and 2. I got most of the way to season 3, and then I kind of just stopped at some point. And so we're going to try to finish that. Then The Witcher. This is one of my highlights of the convention for sure. I got to play The Witcher for the first time since playing the prototype back in who knows when. This ended up being a 6-player game of The Witcher. Again, similar to an experience you've heard with Race to the Raft, with Merchant's Cove. We had too many people who wanted to play The Witcher, and The Witcher is recommended as don't play with more than 3 characters until you know the game well. So we had 6 people, so we teamed up in multiple teams of 2 controlling a character, and so we played a 6-player game with 3 characters just with teams. So definitely extended how long the game can go, but it was good for giving people an experience and getting them up and running and seeing how the game operates. Overall, very much enjoy The Witcher, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing to play it. I hope to have gameplay up on the channel as well. I plan on teaching one of my close friends the game shortly, and then trying to get more gameplay on the channel because it's a game that I know he'll enjoy. It's very much his jam, and that's AP. You've seen AP on the channel, and that's something that I hope to dive into. But that was definitely one of my highlights. One of my goals of the convention was to play The Witcher, and I got to do that. So that's one check mark notched. We have Isle of Cats. Someone who was there was actually a very helpful member of the I guess the level up community. But Lauren, who has actually helped run some geek lists, helped run some things. But she taught me Isle of Cats. I've played Isle of Cats. She taught me a specific variant of Isle of Cats, a real-time family mode that actually might be my favorite way to play Isle of Cats. I historically am okay with Isle of Cats, but I actually like Isle of Cats Explore and Draw more. I like Race to the Raft more. And there's a specific real-time family mode to Isle of Cats that I thought was very well done. And I kind of almost want Isle of Cats back now because I thought it gave me like the best experience of Isle of Cats that I've ever had. It was just well done. It was well done, so I was very happy with that. I think she has official variants posted on Board Game Geek if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know what or who or where, so if that gets linked somehow, great, we'll see. And then we had, I think that's it. I think that's all the games I played. Those, I believe, are the 23 games or 22 games, I don't know if Mythic Mission was counted there, that I got to play at Level Up. Now, and then Sunday closed with a magic show from Alexander Mell. He ran a magic show for the closing ceremonies and whatnot, so we got a bit of a humor and comedy and magic mixed in together. And that's basically what happened there. Now, there are a bunch of things I missed out on. There are a bunch of games I wanted to play that I was very much on the list. Bardwood Grove in particular. Again, Carl Van Osten was there. I wanted to play Bardwood Grove. I heard people saying great things about that one. I unfortunately did not get a chance to, so we'll see at some point. Frostpunk, we had a copy of Frostpunk that I wanted to play that I didn't have time for, although I know one group of people that did play it and persevered for like 8 hours to play that game, so definitely took them. I didn't have 8 hours for it, but I wanted to play it. I know we had Return to Dark Tower that I definitely wanted to play. That was one on my list. DEI was one of my, I don't even know what happened. We were supposed to have DEI as one of our hot games, and it wasn't there. DEI just wasn't present, and so I don't know what happened. Similarly, Expeditions. Expeditions was supposed to be one of our hot games as well, and that's another one that unfortunately did not show up. But and that's one that we had several copies of Expeditions that people brought themselves, and I actually almost got to play a game of Expeditions. I really wanted to. I love Expeditions. I actually just got to play it last night, so I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, Expeditions, fantastic game. Did not get to table that one. We had Beast as one of our prototypes that I really wanted to play, and unfortunately didn't. We had Lands of Galzir, another one of our hot games set up that I wanted to table and did not get to. So there were a lot of games that I definitely wanted to table more and didn't, because, you know, being pulled in different directions. Teaching games, playing games, running the convention, all that kind of stuff. And that was basically the Level Up retreat. It was overall a good time. At least, I mean, selfishly, I can say that myself, it was a good time. But like, I know that, more importantly to me, the amount of people that came up to me talking about how good a time they had, the amount of people who I heard positive feedback about the event, it's very helpful. Now, the tricky part, the thing I need to be mindful of is, That's the people who had a good time. What about the people who didn't have a good time? Are they going to sit there and tell me? And so that's one of the reasons we're sending out these polls. If you attended the event at all, I highly encourage you to give us your worst and most negative feedback, because it helps us understand what areas to clean up on. It helps us to understand, you may have had a great time, but you thought X, Y, and Z could have been done better. Tell us that, because we may already know, and we may be on top of it, but if we don't, then we can't possibly know unless someone tells us. So our goal is to continue to do this, to continue to run level up retreats, to continue to run level up events, and to do these, whether it's one convention a year, whether it's more conventions a year, we have fun. We have fun playing games, and we'd like to continue to grow things in the board game space, to continue to run things that are... Board game conventions create memories. They create friendships. They create bonds. It's such a hugely impactful aspect of this hobby, and the idea of being a part of that is very cool. If you are someone that came to Level Up Retreat, thank you so much for being a part of our inaugural year. Thanks so much for being a part of making it the event that it was. If you're someone who didn't come to Level Up Retreat, we'd love to see you at future events that we run. Our goal is to make sure that people have a good time in the board game space, and we'd love to have you be a part of that. I'll have the link to the site down below. Sign up for whatever in the future, and again, any deals, this, that, whatever it is, to sign up for whatever it is to be notified. But we'd love to see you there in the future. And in the case, until next time, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.